summer long. Stop by KFAN events or find the KFAN street team out and about to get yours. Redeem at Mall of America for exciting prizes and great deals. See the full event schedule at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
We've got a funny text on the 64686, Max. I don't know if you saw it. It's from Larry Mondello guy.
Of course. He's always got some good bits.
Vikings talk is great, but I think everyone would like to get to know Alec Lewis better. Find out who the real Alec Lewis is. How about you do an AMA segment? Is that dangerous?
I don't know. The listeners, they might ask you some personal questions, but I think it's a good thing.
I mean, look,
I don't know the man behind the football.
What do people want to know? I mean, I'm Alec Lewis. I cover the Vikings. I think about the Vikings all the time.
Your deepest, darkest secrets, your fears, your relationship status.
Listen.
Who you voted for. They want to know everything.
There's just only so much to get to know. Like, I watch film. I like football. I talk to people about football. Like, we'll watch Hard Knocks tonight. I like music. I mean, I don't know.
What music do you listen to? Let the people know that.
I mean, it could be anything. I went to Chris Stapleton at the Mystic Lake Amphitheater.
Oh, hell yeah.
But I also I was listening this morning to Burna Boy.
Yeah. Oh, damn.
So, like, there's some music range
duality
to it.
There, yeah.
There is. So, I mean, but other than that, I mean, I don't know. I like really good food in the area. If Gavin Kaysen's listening, someone asked favorite power trip person. I mean, Meat Sauce texts me twice a day, so does that...
Yeah, Sauce is the best. I was just texting with him.
He texts me twice a day, and it's the same word every single time, so that's what it is. But no, Larry Mondello guy, I'd say, listen, if people want to ask me questions, I doubt the entire Twin Cities Metro wants to listen to me talk about myself, but...
I'm going to text in some questions to the text line myself.
Yeah. Why don't you... Jake and Egan just asked something, but, I don't know. I'm a little tentative on what I can say here on the air. All right, we'll go back to the Vikings talk and then circle back for the Larry Mondello guy.
By the way, Jake and Egan, that means the answer is yes.
I will say Jake and Egan, it hasn't been that much. If Harrison Smith does decide to play again, 651 person asks, it'll be 100% with the Vikings, right? So this is an interesting question. I
didn't even think about that.
The answer, I would say 100%. I never say 100% on anything when I cover the league because it's crazy. But I will say this, like I have had other people with other teams ask me if I know anything about Harrison Smith. So it's not as if...
Those dirty dogs.
It's not as if other teams aren't interested in some form or fashion. And you guys listening to this might be like, why would someone want a 37-year-old safety who's played 14 seasons in the NFL? And it really comes down to one thing, his mind. You can't find players who control defenses with that level of experience and aptitude and understanding on the field. You just can't do it. So if there's one walking around the earth who is capable of playing NFL games, you're probably going to be somewhat curious. But no, I'd say to the 651 guy, the real answer, if Harrison Smith plays again, given his reverence for the organization, I would absolutely positively say that it would probably be here. Next question, Vikings question. Then we're going to get back to some Ask Alec Anything because we're getting some real good stuff on here. Does Aaron Jones or Jordan Mason, this from 763 guy, does Aaron Jones or Jordan Mason have more touchdowns this year if both stay healthy? Of course. I think my answer is Jordan Mason.
That's what I would say too.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking in my head, but I was wondering if you were going to say Aaron Jones just because he's a little bit more part of the pass game.
So, Aaron Jones, and the other thing with Aaron Jones, it's pass game and pass protection. And Kevin O'Connell offensively, like he wants guys that he can rely upon in all phases, on all downs and situations, which is the right approach if you are a play caller living and dying on every one of these games. But I would say Jordan Mason, I get texts from friends. You're not going to be surprised by this, Max. Like, I get texts from friends all the time. Fantasy football questions.
Oh, for sure.
And who are the Vikings looking good? And who should I draft in the 9th round? And after I give them the wrong player for 5 years in a row, you would think they would stop texting me. But Jordan Mason has been my answer this year because he looks like he's in really, really good shape. This is definitely a big year for him from a contractual perspective. He is now in a run game system that is very similar to what he learned in San Francisco. So I would just say Jordan Mason is probably the answer there. And then another question from 727 guy. Jordan Addison's my favorite player. If he has a good year, do you think he will re-sign? Does he like it here? Do you think he wants to be a number 1 wide receiver? So I think Jordan Addison really does like it here. From everything that I understand, I will say this. He did switch agents this offseason, which always tends to have some kind of ramifications on contract. And he may or may not have an agent that another high-profile Vikings offensive player has, so I'll just leave that there. But I would also say the Vikings organization, and this is more my analysis, not so much as reporting, like they've really stuck by him through what he's navigated off the field. Kevin O'Connell has backed him at every turn. And so you would hope, you never know, but you would hope that has some kind of benefiting effect when those contract conversations really do surface. So that's what I'd say on Jordan Addison. But I said it earlier. They're spending $172 million on this offense for 2026, which is the 6th most in the NFL. So to spend further in a massive way, which is just going to be the case for Jordan Addison, that places you in definitely an interesting spot.
Because it was already going to be massive, and then you would think the price went up even a little bit more right after those. That's particularly the Christian Watson and
Zay
the Zay Flowers deal as well.
Christian Watson, Zay Flowers,
guys that have produced, I would say,
Jameson
significantly
Williams.
less than Jordan Addison.
Right. And I would say, I mean, this is a big year for Jordan Addison. Let's not get it twisted. Like, he had multiple drops last year. The passing game in general was not exceptional, to put it lightly. So, yeah, I think Jordan Addison, and there's probably going to be a lot of opportunity for him. If defenses have to allocate multiple defenders to Justin Jefferson, and they have to be mindful of Kyler Murray's dual threat ability, that should present some one-on-one opportunities that Jordan Addison has proven that he can really win in as a separator. So, really looking forward to watching him all year. I think it'll be a really just fascinating kind of evaluation. So let's see what else we got. We got some fun questions on here. Someone's making fun of my Alabama-ness with a cousin question. Really appreciate that. So 612.
Not hard to fill in the blank on that one.
612 go-to restaurant and meal.
Oh,
I mean, that's tough.
Yeah,
because I could really, if I give you something really nice, then how does that make me look?
Like, yeah, you don't want to give the wrong answer. You know, like,
I'd say Bar La Grassa for me.
Oh, that just sounds fancy.
It
sounds real fancy.
It is, but it's just
with your pinky up in there. Yeah, that's
drinking a peppercini martini. No, Bar La Grassa. It's Italian in the North Loop. It's just money every single time. But it's not going to make me look the most, like a common man. It's just not.
That's not blue collar right there.
But I can't lie.
That's popped collar. That's not even white collar. That's popped collar right there.
You're exactly right. But I'm not going to, again, on the bumper to bumper program, you got to be objective, honest, and as serious as I possibly can be. So, Andrew Milrow, the man, says, keep up the great coverage. Big fan of the podcast. It's good to hear that somebody's listening to the podcast. Like, I go on YouTube and I'm looking at these Viking shows, and there's 47 of them that you can click on. So I'm in that mix. In honor of Barrero, do you back into parking spots?
Oh.
Have you heard this conversation?
No. Does he have a hot take about this?
If I'm not mistaken, and I don't want to misquote Dan, because I'll definitely hear about it. But yeah, I think the backing into a parking spot is not his forte.
Oh, okay.
Are you a backer-inner?
I don't even have my license, dog. I can barely even ride a bike. I fell off my bike and broke my jaw, right. So I don't have my license. But your boy still knows how to drive. I could back into a parking spot a little bit.
Here's what I'd say. I just never understand, if you're going to spend the extra time on the front end backing in, Like you're not. Are you saving time? Because on the back end, you'd spend that same time.
It's just a flex. It's purely just a flex that you can do it.
It's never been my go-to move, but I've done it every now and then. There's some times where it's that certain type of day, or that certain day, and you're feeling like a back end is warranted.
Right.
So that just happens.
You just got to feel it in your spirit. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly right. What is Alec's go-to meal after a long night out? I mean, that's assuming I've spent a lot of long nights out. I don't know. Taco Bell?
Yeah. What's your Taco Bell order though?
The cheesy gordita crunch has always been my go-to. I mean, it just has been. I mean, people don't. How much do I miss Waffle House, Danny from Atlanta? Every day of the week, I miss Waffle House. So 612 guy, Alec nailed it with Barla Grassa, legendary Italian food. Can vouch. Yeah, thank you, 612 guy. You know,
that guy lives in Edina.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a bad. Yeah, Guardsy's gonna know what I'm talking about. That's how.
See, I couldn't speak up on that, but then you said Taco Bell. I'm like,
there was no hesitation. It was the smoothness of that's what we were looking for. 763 guy, I asked Charch yesterday, but he didn't answer. He said there's no need to try a field goal in the preseason, but don't we have a new holder? So it would actually be good to try a field goal now. You're right. Like, yes,
point,
Will Reichard. You Will Reichard, you could toss him in the Grand Cayman Islands and he would make your kick there just like he would make it on the MetLife Stadium turf. But the holding, as in the weeds as it is actually a massive thing. And when you have a punter situation that the Vikings have right now, where you sign Johnny Hecker as a free agent, but then you've got Brett Thorson, the undrafted signing, Ray Guy Award winner from Georgia. Max, I'm sure you know all about this.
Oh, yeah.
When you've got that circumstance, and Brett Thorson has never held field goals in his life, it is an important thing to get simulated reps for. So I will say this, 763 guy, I'm not for certain of the punter situation right now. I had in my roster projection for Tuesday, Johnny Hecker, but I'm not certain that it's an ironclad who's going to be the punter in 2026. So something to stay tuned for. Maybe Friday night it'll be the greatest punt competition ever to be had in Denver.
Right. Everybody's paying attention to the QB battle, QB1, QB2. Real ball knowers know the punting battle is where it's at.
The holding on the field goals is where you make your money here in the NFL reporting
especially
space.
Especially in Minnesota.
Yes. No, good questions. And hopefully Larry Mondello guy learned a little about me. Probably learned that I eat too nice of food or what have you.
Expect a joke about your fancy eating habits by the end of it from Larry Mondello.
Yeah, the text line will rip me more than it already has, and that'll be just okay. I'm Alec Lewis, in for Dan Barrero here on The Fan. Max Fuller producing. Coming up in about 30 minutes, we're going to have Kevin Seifert of ESPN, who was out at Vikings practice today. And then at 5:30, John Krasinski talking Timberwolves and their new ownership situation, and Courtney Cronin at 6 o'clock talking how hard she works every single day on ESPN and elsewhere. So thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned. More Vikings questions coming after the break.
From the 1-800 Ask Gary Traffic Center. This report.
Want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program? Make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryan text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
Welcome back to the Bumper to Bumper program. I'm Alec Lewis. I write about the Vikings for The Athletic in my day job. And I'm here today talking a lot of Vikings. I mean, we've been hardcore, Max. We're just talking about the holder. But I would say nothing has lit the text line up like the back end parking. So I get why that's been a Barrero Guardsy conversation, because it just gets the people going, is what I would say. So, and then there was a lot of thoughts on the Barla Grassa tip. I mean, some people are ripping me, some people rightfully. I mean, I deserve to get ripped every now and then.
Yeah, so see, the people want to, they like knowing about you, Alec. They like knowing about you, the guy behind the piano.
Someone asked, what is your biggest surprise about the upper Midwest?
Oh.
I would say, I'll stick with the food thing. Like, the food here is exceptional.
It's great.
The Twin Cities food scene.
It doesn't get enough credit.
Oh, my. No, that doesn't even do it justice. Doesn't give it enough credit. It's like Jacob Thomas, the undrafted safety from James Madison. Nobody knows. How did nobody know?
It's way more diverse than people would think. And there's like some high level chefs up in this area, man.
Yeah.
Like you could literally get any kind of food that you would want.
Yeah.
Nobody would ever, if you ask somebody outside of the other 49 states, they probably wouldn't rank Minnesota in their top 20. But it's up there, dog.
And when I've got like friends or family who come up and I'm like, I'll take you to these nice restaurants, I think they're skeptical. I can see it or hear it in their voice. But then we go and sit, and they're like, man, this is, this is pretty good. So that's what I'd say. That's how I'd answer that. Who makes the last receiver spot on the Minnesota Vikings is a question from the text line 64686. Unless the Vikings get really creative and want to keep Dylan Bell, for certain on the 53, the undrafted rookie from Georgia, I think you could just get 5 receivers where it's Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jawan Jennings, Miles Price, and Ty Felton. I think those 5 could you just end there. So we'll see, but that's probably how I would answer that. Coach O'Connell, this from 651 person. Coach O'Connell wants to crank up the running game. Do you guys see anything schematically from these practice that would indicate there's a different approach that's going to be taken? Yes. The answer to that is unequivocally yes. And I've said that here on KFAN a lot. I've said that on my own podcast, the Alec Lewis Show. I've said that in writing. Like the Vikings in past years, Kevin O'Connell has talked about the run game being better. Like that has been something that has been a priority for him every offseason entering the season. But this year, more than any other, they made some changes fundamentally to get the run game to a place I think that they haven't gotten to in the past. And so you're probably asking, okay, so what was that? So they hired Frank Smith, who was the offensive coordinator in Miami for the Miami Dolphins, working closely with Mike McDaniel, who had one of the most creative run games. And then
underrated run game.
Yeah, underrated because they didn't have a quarterback who could do very much, and the quarterback couldn't run. And that's another dynamic of what they can do here is Kyler Murray's dual threat ability adds even more potency to the run game. But then you elevate assistant offensive line coach Keith Carter to the main offensive line coach post. And I was going to ask Kevin Seifert of ESPN about that in about 20 minutes because he wrote about that subject, I believe, last week. But Keith Carter is a no-nonsense guy, very high standard, is willing to work these offensive linemen tirelessly. And then those two coaches, with their structure, have implemented an outside zone system that is focused less on thinking after the snap and more on just flying off the ball with physicality and reckless abandon. And, you talk to any of the offensive linemen. Fortunately, I get to do that. And I talk to them and they have been very excited, I would say, about the prospect of what the run game is capable of in 2026. And so not only has there been a lot of conversation about it from the coaching staff and Kevin O'Connell, but when you see the reaction from some of the players to how much they have enjoyed being a part of it and the standard that they're having to live up to right now, that's where, for me, it really settles in of there really could be a drastic difference that maybe we haven't seen in past years. And then that conversation flows to if the run game is better, then defenses have to adjust how they play. Can they double Justin Jefferson as much as they have? If not, Justin Jefferson is going to probably beat you in one-on-one coverage. If they can still double Justin Jefferson, then there's more space underneath for the Vikings to run the football. So I get the intent behind it. They have to show it once the season begins because there's been a lot of talk about this offseason after offseason. But if they do show it, I think it will speak volumes to how we talked about at the very beginning and Kevin O'Connell. Like it will show an evolution and a progression that will be important in his evaluation.
Brian O'Neill, you talked to Tatum Edford on the sidelines during preseason game number 1. He went as far as to say they want defenses to fear the Vikings run game the way they fear Justin Jefferson. And
that's the perfect way for Brian O'Neill to capture. And Brian has been very open, I would say. Brian has been very open about wanting the run game to be a focal point of the team now for multiple years because, it's funny, I'm a young guy. I'm a data guy. I love the passing game and all of the highlights that come with it. That it's fun to watch. But the more I've covered the league and the more I've talked to people internally, coaches, executives, players, anybody, agents, the more it comes up. If you run the football, it makes everything easier.
Yeah.
And people don't just say that for their health.
Right.
Like they can feel it on the field. So, if Max, Brian O'Neill is correct, and if defenses do end up fearing the Vikings run game the way they felt the pass game, then these towns are going to have a lot of fun. Like if that happens, they're going to have a lot of fun, and Kevin O'Connell is going to be praised ad nauseum for the job that and rightfully for the job that he'll have done in that respect.
Because it would be a complete kind of change in identity. Like you said, this is something that's been talked about. It's almost, I mean, me and Brett were talking about it the other day. He called it the boy who cried run game. You know, it's kind of like we hear about it every offseason, but that's not really, hasn't been KOC's identity offensively since he's, been the head coach here. So it would be a complete change of identity to put more emphasis. But you could tell he wants to. He's always wanted to, just maybe didn't felt like he had the tools or the option to.
That's the interesting push-pull is like, you're right. They have talked about it, and they don't do that for their health either. Like, it is a priority for them. And does the fact that they haven't committed to it wholeheartedly, is that because they haven't had the personnel or the style that gives you the confidence to commit to it? Or are you just not committing to it? Right. I think this is really a season, again, that will be kind of a referendum on that in some form or fashion. So that's part of why I'm so excited for week 1 to get here. Let's see. Next question comes from Tom in Savage. Alec, top Alabama player or coach you'd like to interview all time? Oh, it's a great question. I've never gotten to interview Nick Saban, so it's probably the most low-hanging fruit. I never have.
I'm surprised.
That's probably the most low-hanging fruit. But I don't think I'd want to interview him. Like, I think I just want to grab beers with him.
Just want to hang out with him. Yeah.
And just talk leadership.
That could be the story. Yeah. Just you and Nick Saban just getting turned up a little bit.
I'll pitch that to Jimmy Sexton this evening and see how that goes. Alec, this comes from 612 person. If this becomes the second year in a row where Justin Jefferson isn't confident in his quarterback, what is the level of fear that he wants out after this season? I mean, look, like I think there's for years since I've covered this team, there's been an undercurrent of like people I don't know if it's like people wanting Justin Jefferson to one out or something like that. Like, or maybe people just expect that to happen. I would say this. Justin Jefferson absolutely loves the Twin Cities. He loves this organization. He takes pride in the history of the organization. And more than anything, I think he wants to win here. Like, he wants to win here for what it would mean for the people listening to this radio station every single day. And so, I can never foreshadow if another struggle type season happens, what he's going to feel internally. I'd say even if they struggle, I don't expect him to be out in the media going crazy. I don't expect the sideline to be a chaotic, look, just because I don't think that's how he is. And so there's such commitment from Justin Jefferson of wanting to win here that it's hard for me to go down that road. And I get why people speculate it. They do out of fear or out of, maybe you're a fan of another team and you want that to happen.
Right.
So
history,
history. Yeah. I mean, that's obviously, yes. But I'd say like Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson are very different personalities.
More different people, right?
So like and again, I get the history and why people would go down that road, but
and Justin Jefferson's not a diva. He's like the anti-diva,
it speaks to his awareness level. Like even in the way, when I show up on Thursday afternoons and Justin Jefferson talks every single week and we ask him questions, like I'm very conscious of the fact that Justin's going to know what you're trying to get at when you're asking certain questions. You're not going to like sneak something around him. He's not going to say, rarely, if ever, is he going to say something that's going to be inflammatory in any respect.
Right.
And the cool thing that I appreciate about Justin is he does those Thursday interviews in front of the media, and then in the locker room, he's an accessible guy. Like you would think a megastar of that caliber, you would never be able to walk up to him, but I can go up to him and ask about LSU football or his family or any of that stuff. And that's
even him joining PA and Pete and Ben on the broadcast. Like the whole time he was doing that, I was like, how many other in his category. Would Jamar Chase do this for the Bengals broadcast? Would A.J. Brown have done this?
Please.
You can't even imagine these other guys doing stuff like that. And that just speaks to JJ's character.
And not only is he doing it, but he's reacting like a child watching this former undrafted rookie in Miles Price go crazy. And that is a organic, natural, real reaction. And so, the coolest thing about Justin and covering him for 4 years for me is there is just a childlike joy to how he goes about it that I think last year was difficult because you kind of saw that zapped a little bit. So you don't want to see that for a guy who I think there's a reason so many kids love Justin, or they're attracted, or there's a magnetism with Justin. I think it's because they're, you sense the childlike joy that he plays and operates with, and you never want to see that lost. So, it's amazing that he joins those guys and then reacts like that, I will say. Let's go. Next question comes from Greg in Lakeville. I love Lakeville. I really do.
Shout out to Lakeville.
Yeah, shout out Lakeville. I still feel bad for Mankato from early in the show. If Max Brosmer was given enough time and reps as JJ received, I think this is this person talking. I think he could actually be better than JJ. He's got a quicker release and he's more accurate. Thought. I mean, look, I always find it interesting with NFL quarterbacks, how much the draft position affects the way we perceive these guys. Kirk Cousins being a late round pick, has that brought along skepticism throughout his entire journey versus former first round picks? Do they get more opportunities potentially because they arrived with that level of perception? So that's a very word salad political way of me not answering that question. But look, I do think this, the Vikings definitely believed in Max Brosmer. I don't think they wanted to throw him out there as early as they had to last season. And you always wonder, just from a career arc standpoint, how does that affect or change something? So it'll be interesting to me to see, with the back end of this quarterback room, how this shakes out. Do they try to get Max Brosmer to the practice squad? Is another team interested? What other moving and shaking can happen? I think that's something I will be attentive to between now and Sunday when the rosters are finalized. Dr. Phil from St. Michael asked, do you fish? Have you caught a walleye yet?
Oh,
I haven't fished a lot, but I want to go ice fishing so badly. I really want to go ice fishing.
Yeah.
Have you been?
I've never gone. No, I've been wanting to do it my whole time that I've lived here, dog.
I will probably complain so much.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Being out there?
I'm going to complain and moan the whole time. But then afterwards, I'm going to be like, that was fun. We should do that again. Yeah,
and just to tell people from back home in Alabama that I went ice fishing.
Right.
And to see the reactions, that's the best. But I need a group that's going to chart the path for me to go ice fishing.
You got to go with some experts.
That's what I'm saying.
You don't want to go with the group full of rookies and then all y'all at the bottom of the lake. 20 minutes later.
There's no question I don't want to be at the bottom of the lake. But if I'm on ice in a truck, I want somebody driving who's got experience in that operation.
Right.
And I don't want to be backing in on the ice.
No.
That's you never want to be doing that.
You need the high. I feel like the first time you go, you need the high tech stuff. You need the heated little house. You need the little thing that drills
the heated house. Certainly is necessary.
Is important. Absolutely.
You gotta. I mean, if you go ice fishing without the heated house, I don't know.
You're a psychopath. Yeah.
Right.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, absolutely are. All right. We're ripping the text line here on the program bumper to bumper. This is I'm kind of trying to honor Common with this approach of how we're going about it.
But the people got questions.
And look, we're gonna have some big time interviews here coming up. Kevin Seifert in about 8 minutes from ESPN to talk about the Vikings. We're going to have John Krasinski at 5:30 talking about the Wolves, and then Courtney Cronin at 6 o'clock going a little Bears and NFC North conversation. So why not get the Vikings portion of the show as hot and heavy as possible right now? Have I ever skated? Yes, I've skated. It's not pretty. Here's 651. When you ice fish, you have to realize you're going to be at shirt sleeves in an ice house with a propane heater where the temperature is about 65. You got all kinds of snacks and good sipping and fish below biting like crazy. It's absolute. I mean, look, Like
Sounds like a good time.
There's a reason I want to do it. Certainly. Let's see. Any other hardcore Vikings questions that we can get to? You see any, Max?
I'm taking a look right now myself. Lots of people still chiming in on the backing in perspective.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of backing in conversation.
A lot of backing in conversation, but I'm looking a lot of talk about Brosmer, which you already addressed.
Yeah, I'm seeing 651 0% chance someone is interested in Brosmer. I'll just tell you, like I was with the scout last week, and they were asking me about Max Brosmer. So I get it after the performance last year in Seattle and what it looked like down the stretch. And even he threw an interception, Max Brosmer did Saturday against the Ravens. So I get it, but I'll just say, like, quarterbacks who are as smart as Max Brosmer do come with certain amount of value, even if it's really hard to believe. It's just what I would say.
How about this one from John from Playa Vista, California?
It's a beautiful place. I did an internship out there. Oh my God. There's very few places beautiful as Playa Vista.
It just sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, it's like PA said, would you rather stay at Playa Vista or save Playa Vista? He said, realistically, what are the Vikings going to do at center? Why does it feel like this position has been ignored since the John Sullivan era? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, they tried with Garrett Bradbury in drafting him as high as they did. Garrett Bradbury, and I'm going to ask Courtney Cronin about this at 6:00, is potentially going to be your starting center for the Chicago Bears in Ben Johnson's offense. That's going to be really interesting for me to observe. But they tried, and then from that point forward, it's been a revolving door. Obviously, last offseason, they signed Ryan Kelly in free agency, and his concussion circumstance affected the performance that was pretty good when he was out there. So, yeah, I mean, look, I do think there was an opportunity for the Vikings to draft a center in one of the early rounds of the 2026 draft. They ended up taking Jake Golday, the linebacker / edge rusher out of Cincinnati. And that was a decision they made, I believe, just believing that the floor that Blake Brandel gives you, would match what that rookie would have given. So we'll see if that plays out throughout the course of the season, but it's a critical spot. Every time I've been on the Bumper to Bumper program with Dan Barrero over the last, I would say, month and a half, we talk about the center spot in Blake Brandel every single time, I think for good reason. And if they are good on the interior, that's going to be huge because Kyler Murray is a quarterback who needs that part of the offensive line to be, to uphold for him to see the field the way I think he can optimally. So, someone's, throwing something about Kevin Seifert and ice fishing. So that's how we'll start. That's how we'll start with Kevin Seifert of ESPN when we come back from the break. Talking all things Vikings here on the Bumper to Bumper program. I'm Alec Lewis. I cover the team for The Athletic. In with Max Fuller producing. Kevin Seifert of ESPN coming right up.
This is Randy Moss. You're listening to The Fan.
Game day starts at Hy-Vee.
The countdown to the Minnesota State Fair is on. Visit the KFAN booth at Carousel Park, presented by Mesh, Besher, and Spence, starting this Thursday for live shows, brand new KFAN gear, and a free original chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A with every purchase while supplies last. Details at KFAN.com/fair.
You're listening to Bumper on KFAN. I'm Alec Lewis, Vikings beat writer for The Athletic, and pleased to be joined by Kevin Seifert of ESPN, who spent his afternoon out at Vikings practice at the TCO Performance Center. Kevin, how was practice?
It was good. We missed you out there. You missed a glorious 80-minute or so practice that was pretty similar to yesterday. Not a lot of contact. I think they were in shells and just getting ready for that final preseason game.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty, we were talking. I don't know if you've been listening. Probably not. You've probably been doing. You can send me the scoops at my email.
Yeah, I'm just working on scoops.
Yeah. The text line, Eric in Circle Pines said that we were talking about ice fishing, said that 0% chance that Kevin Seifert likes ice fishing. Would you confirm that?
Well, usually you have to have done something to know whether you like it or not. And I think the better answer is, have I ever been ice fishing?
Sure.
And the answer is most definitely not. I wouldn't say it's a phobia, but I have concerns about the strength of the ice, no matter what time of year and no matter what lake you're talking about and no matter how many other people are out there. So I like to keep my feet on firm ground. And so I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully answer that, because you probably have to try something before you decide whether you like it or not.
So what would have to happen for you to be willing to go?
You would have to show me clear evidence that the ice extends all the way to the bottom of the lake or the body of water. It can't just be a certain level of thickness and then there's water running underneath it. I don't trust that whatsoever. If there's such a thing in such a place, hopefully someone could let me know, and I'd be happy to go out there. Although as I'm talking, if the ice goes all the way to the bottom, the likelihood that you'll catch a fish in that scenario is not high, as I think through this out loud on live radio. But that's what would get me out on the ice at the very least.
Gotcha. No, that's good to know. I appreciate you walking us through it. Certainly. Reading a tweet that you had from 250 once practice ended. This was at Seifert ESPN. A relatively brief Vikings practice, 80 minutes today. J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz split second team reps. I mean, how significant do you feel like that is, Kevin?
It's a good question, because as Kevin O'Connell said after the game, and JJ confirmed, he was a little banged up coming out of the game. So it's possible that is the explanation for why that's happening. It's also possible that they wanted to get Carson some work, and these practices are short, and there's really no other way to do it other than split the reps that don't include the first team. Where Kyler Murray is working, or it could mean that they're still considering who they want to have as the number 2 quarterback when the regular season begins. And so we'll talk to Kevin O'Connell tomorrow. Yeah. I don't think it's insignificant, because there's definitely a reason, but we don't want to jump to any conclusions as to what those could be. But those are the possibilities as I see them.
I said earlier in the show that I do not know or have an understanding of what the quarterback plan is going to be Friday night in Denver. And to your point, Kevin O'Connell talks Wednesday, and I imagine he will iron that out in some form or fashion. Do you want to take a stab at, what do you think the quarterback plan will be? Or, I mean, I don't know. What do you think it should be?
Yeah, Max Brosmer, they did some game-related stuff today. I don't know if it was really 2 minutes, but it was moving the ball.
Sure. And
Max Brosmer was the quarterback for that. So I would have to assume the likeliest scenario and probably the smartest scenario is for Max to take the whole game or close to it, assuming he is up to that. That they've done that in the past, and I think that's, from a health standpoint, pretty smart. And so we'll see if that ends up being the case. If you want to put Carson Wentz or J.J. McCarthy in there, you're talking about probably playing some players who might not otherwise be a part of the third preseason game. So as Kevin O'Connell said after the game, there's a lot of moving parts, and that wasn't just, that's real. And it's not just the quarterback. It's the other players that you would want to have around one of those 2 guys will for sure be the number 2 quarterback, you would think, and you'd want to have somebody other than the people that the bottom of the roster guys that typically are playing in that final preseason game based on the way the Vikings typically handle it. So we'll see if they decide to change the way that they do it. But if it's otherwise going to be pretty much the bottom of the roster guys, it would call into question whether the smartest thing to do would be to throw your 2 of your top 3 quarterbacks in that group as well.
Yeah. We're talking to Kevin Seifert of ESPN. He covers the NFL and the Vikings. Someone from the text line said better chance for Kevin Seifert to go ice fishing or go to the fair, which was exceptional.
They're both very similar chances.
Are they? I don't know if that's the case, but I appreciate it.
Well, Yeah, no, I mean, and it starts, the number starts with the letter Z, I think.
That's exceptional. Brian Flores spoke to the media. I don't know if you stood in on his press conference, but
I did.
What was there anything significant in your mind or in your ears to what you heard from Brian Flores? I know he talked a little bit about the safety position, but what stood out from his press conference to you?
Yeah, he talked a fair bit about Jacob Thomas, and you know, he gave us some shout outs to the scouts and the assistant coaches who sort of did the front end work on bringing him in as an undrafted rookie, and said that there's a lot to like about him, but that, you know, you can always tell that, like, it's not a surprise that rookies don't always play right away for Brian Flores, just kind of the way he talks about them. And he started kind of listing the things that he likes about Thomas, and, you know, his instincts and his ability to run and being a sure tackler. But he said there's still a lot more things for him to figure out, a lot more things for him to do. And he's right about that. And then he talked a lot about Caleb Banks. You know, we were asking him about Caleb Banks' comments after the game Saturday about needing to get in better shape and run some gassers. And he kind of laughed and he said that he was right, but that basically applies to certainly to anybody who's never played a full NFL game. You know, nobody comes into camp ready to do that right away. And you just get there by getting snaps. And so they really wanted him to play as much as he could in that first. I think he played every snap in the first half of the game the other day. And then they wanted him to come out for the third quarter and get a feel of what that's like as well. Just, you know, cooling down a little bit and then getting back out there and needing to expend more energy. And he talked about just the development and how he wasn't upset with the play in the first preseason game where Caleb Banks acknowledged that he kind of broke the scheme a little bit to try to get in the backfield and make a play. And he said he encourages players to do that, young players to do that, so they can find out if what they believe to be the speed of the NFL game and the speed of the NFL players actually is an accurate assessment, or if maybe they were underestimated how fast players are and how difficult it is to get in the backfield and make plays. And I think even Caleb Banks said that when he tried to get inside and tackle Scatabo from the Giants, that he was faster than he thought he was. And so Flores kind of referred to it as like a kid learning that a stove is hot. You don't know it's hot or what it means to be hot until you actually touch it and get yourself burned. And so that was an interesting way and a good way, I think, to explain his reaction to Caleb Banks working his way through his first training camp and figuring out like what he's going to be able to do right away and what he won't be.
Yeah. Flowing from the safety conversation, and you mentioned Jacob Thomas, the undrafted rookie from James Madison. Like I've been thinking the last couple of days just about this position in its entirety and talked about it early in this show. But I've really come to the question of like how important, how much do they feel like they need Harrison Smith? Because if, Theo Jackson didn't practice yesterday and Jacob Thomas is your primary option to play in the deep part of the field, like how much pressure does that put on an undrafted rookie? So how much do you think they need Harrison Smith back?
I think that probably more than maybe in the middle of the camp when they had everybody healthy plus Jamal Adams. That was another thing Brian Flores talked about. They really had started to develop some packages for him, and I don't think he was going to be like a every down safety, but he was going to be somebody that would be out there a fair bit and would potentially relieve pressure on other players at other positions. I think they'd be better with Harrison Smith. Like there's just no two ways about it, unless Harrison has let himself go and would report in at 250 pounds or something like that, which I highly doubt. And so, you really can't argue. It's not like they made a big personnel move to try to backfill behind him, or, they did draft Jacoby Thomas in the third round, but he's only getting back to teamwork this week from that back injury that was bothering him from a lot of camp. So they really didn't bring somebody in that was a slam dunk to replace him. And if Jacob Thomas as an undrafted rookie is the best option, then I guess he's the best option. But I don't know where anyone in the world would think that's an ideal option. We always get excited about undrafted rookies because it seems like if they get to this point, like all of a sudden you have the next Adam Thielen or something, and people forget how very difficult it is to pull that off, especially right away. I mean, Adam Thielen was a few years, before he was kind of a regular starting player in the NFL. And so long way of saying, I think it's pretty important. I think they need him. I think that they have some ideas for what they could do to cover up and paper up things, but the way that they react, I don't have any inside information on this, but the way that they kind of approached the idea of potentially having an opening at that spot made me think that they thought that there was a decent chance that there wouldn't be an opening. They brought back the people they had, and they drafted somebody at the end of the third round, and that was about it. So we'll see where it all goes, but there's no doubt they'd be better with him than without him.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that and you know this because we've heard it so much, like the other part of the safety position in Brian Flores' defense that warrants attention and conversation is like it occupies the communication part of what he wants to do before the snap. And so much of what has made them successful is that they do adapt before the snap to the picture they're seeing offensively. So that's where even when you're talking about Jacob Thomas, the undrafted rookie, I mean, for a guy to step in and then to be making checks having not played NFL snaps, I mean, that is
there's no way. Like, it would be hard to imagine that would be the case.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a lot of license that you would be giving. Switching back to the offensive side for a second, you wrote a story last week on Keith Carter and the offensive line, the new offensive line coach who was the assistant last year, and kind of the work he's done with the offensive line ahead of the 2026 season. What was in your mind, like your takeaway in sitting down with Keith and in reporting that story?
Yeah. I mean, to me, like, I looked at it from the broad picture of they very clearly wanted to get more physical and maybe a little meaner on offense, period. And that's through the run game. And you do that with scheme, you do that with personnel, and you do it with coaching. And so one of the things that they did was promote an offensive line coach who at two different stops in his career has sort of engendered some public shots from players for basically being too intense and too physical and pushing players too hard. And, I thought that was pretty interesting because you have 5 veteran offensive linemen, if you consider Donovan Jackson a veteran at 2 years. And at the NFL level, you don't often see guys pushing, these veteran players the way you would see like in a college level or even below. And so in talking to Keith about it, like he didn't shy away from the fact that some of the ways he approached things at his stops in Tennessee and with the Jets, he understood why players were upset. He didn't say, though, that he is pulled back or he's less intense or that he's asking them to be less physical than he did in these other stops. He basically said that it's more important than he realized to explain to players why he's pushing them, why he wants them to run between drills, and why he wants them to chase ball carriers 10 yards downfield, even if you're 30-year-old Brian O'Neill or, Christian Darrisaw, who is younger but, clearly went through a lot of physical things the past 2 years, and why he wants them to be hitting each other hard enough to knock each other over even when they're not even in pads, and why he wants those type of things. And I talked to all 5 of the linemen, and they all very much agreed, and some of them brought it up on their own, that they understand why they're doing it. He has explained it to them. They want to be coached this way because none of them feel like they've really reached their potential as a group. And they all said that, they to various extents had heard about the what had been said about Carter at previous stops, and they reserved judgment. And in their own opinion, they're feeling worked hard and they're tired compared to where they were in previous years, but they don't feel abused or they aren't concerned about their bodies breaking down before the end of the season. They feel like they needed to try something different, and they've embraced it.
Last one for Kevin Seifert of ESPN. Is there any, like you did this week, a 53-person roster projection? It's like we are all contractually obligated, I believe, to do that this time of year. I'd say, was there one spot that was the most difficult for you?
Off the top of my head, I've seen so many yours and so many else's. I'm trying to remember which ones what I end up using, but the running back spot, I kept Xavier Scott on, and basically they have 5 running backs if you include Max Bredesen as fullback. And typically you don't do that. And I also think like it's possible Xavier Scott could get through waivers and you could get him on your practice squad. But I just kept them there because I've kind of bought into this idea that they really want to try to run the ball more and be more physical. And, they have obviously Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, and those guys are going to get the majority of the work. Damon Claiborne would be the other running back, the rookie that they drafted from Wake Forest, and there's definitely going to be a role for him. He's definitely got the burst they talked about. He's got the ability to be explosive, and you just wonder if they are going to want to limit him to some packages as opposed to feeling okay putting him into the regular rotation if something were to happen in a game with Jones or Mason or both, where they would be at that point. And so I that's where I feel shakiest. I'm just not sure what they'll do there. I'm sure there's some other spots where I screwed it up, but that was the one where I at least spent the most time thinking about.
Yeah, that was a tough one for me. I would say tight end depth is still for me kind of a question. And then like the edge rusher spot, I mean, we've seen a lot of Tyler Batty, Chaz Chambliss, Bo Richter, but I don't know. It's a heavy reliance on former undrafted players. So it will be interesting to see how things shake out by the end of the week. It will also be interesting to see. I have to get with colleagues and see what we can do from an ice fishing standpoint into the deep end of the winter. But Kevin, thanks for hopping on.
You go do it and let me know how it goes.
I will report back and see if that, the text line is really they're fascinated by your reticence. So it's good. Thanks for hopping on. That's Kevin Seifert of ESPN, who covers the NFL and the Minnesota Vikings. I'm Alec Lewis, in for Dan Barrero, and we'll be back here on KFAN. Got Johnny Athletic talking Wolves' new ownership straight off of his vacation, because that's how he is. He's a grinder. That's at 5:30. But thank you guys for being here with us. Me and Max Fuller on KFAN, and talk to you after the break.
This is Kevin Harlan, and you're listening to The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center.
This report